Hey, welcome back to my channel. I am Dani. I'm your board certified functional nutrition counselor and your fertility awareness practitioner. And I'm answering a question today on my specialty, which is hypothalamic amenorrhea. So, very specifically, the question that we have is, can you get pregnant with hypothalamic amenorrhea / how do you get pregnant with hypothalamic amenorrhea? These are great questions. Look, we have to start with what HA is. I feel like if you're asking this question, there's possibly even a piece where you don't fully understand what HA is. So to put it really simple, it's when the hypothalamus pituitary axis of your brain is experiencing too much stress, not enough energy intake, and it's shutting down your reproductive system, meaning you're not ovulating, you're not bleeding, you're not building uterine lining, you don't have any follicles really coming to maturation, and you are not having a period for an extended amount of time. This could be, we typically define it by 3 months or more. So women who haven't had periods for 10 years, women who haven't had periods for 10 months, all of them we've worked with, and all of them recover in exactly the same way. So this is really good to know. This is great information. This is exciting. There's nothing scary about, you know, how long you've had it for. So if you're wondering, okay, can I get pregnant with HA? Look, the short answer is you're not ovulating, so no. But hear me out. Watch this whole video. You don't have a disease, you don't have a syndrome. HA is a completely naturally occurring thing. There, I'm in focus now. HA is a completely naturally occurring part of the body. It's a system that's designed to keep you safe and to basically help make sure that you have the energy you need to do your vital functions that keep you up and breathing, like your lungs and your heart, and it kind of shuts down the things that are less important for being alive right now in this second, like your digestive system, maybe holding on and growing all of that luscious hair and those big strong nails, and your reproductive hormones. What's important to know is that all of these things are important to be running optimally for longevity, to live a long life. The menstrual cycle, whether you have it or not, is a vital sign, but it's just that you won't die today if you don't have it. And it's a whole other road, like a whole other mountain to climb, the conversation of why sometimes it's hard for people to commit to HA recovery because they're not like dying. And so sometimes it's not until they're trying to get pregnant that they're willing to make a change and figure out what's going on. And that's okay, that's sometimes what happens, but it's important for you to know that having a regular menstrual cycle and returning and recovering your missing menstrual cycle is extremely important for your overall health. It's linked to your brain health. Your bone is strongly linked to your bone health, causes osteoporosis because you're not producing estrogen. In a nutshell, if you're not producing estrogen, all kinds of problems are coming up in your body. So the question, can you get pregnant with HA, is a no. But if you've heard people before say, well, I didn't have a period and I did get pregnant, one of two things actually happened in this situation. The first one is they did finally ovulate and they got pregnant on that first ovulation, meaning they never had to bleed because they got pregnant. So basically they did make some lifestyle changes or some shifts, either knowingly or unknowingly, that caused them to menstruate, or well, sorry, caused them to ovulate. And they happened to have sex at the right time and they got pregnant that first time. And it sounds like, well, that doesn't sound very likely to happen very often. It actually does happen quite often. And we see it in our practice a lot with our clients who are trying to get pregnant, because we're able to help them recover and actually know that they're in their fertile window before they ever even get their first period. So we actually sometimes do that, although it's recommended that you have a few menstrual cycles before you try getting pregnant, and we're going to get to that. So the other reason some people will say that they got their period, that they got pregnant even though they have HA, is because they did fertility treatment. Fertility treatment injecting hormones into yourself or forcing your body to ovulate and taking hormones in the lead up to artificially help you build a uterine lining. These are medical interventions. Fertility treatments can be really expensive. They range, it kind of depends on what the doctors recommend you need for your body to be able to get pregnant. Everything from taking Clomid and Letrozole all the way through to IVF. Many of them require you to go on birth control for a period of time. And these are not our favorite ways. I want to assure you that that is not your only option if you have HA. And if you have had a doctor tell you you have HA and you need fertility treatment to get pregnant, I recommend you go listen to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. That is our podcast. Listen to all of the recovery stories, all of the people who have had that news given to them, and all of the women who we've seen, we've met, we've worked with, and helps them get pregnant naturally, even though they have HA. It's totally possible to get your period back, to get pregnant, naturally. That's what we do all the time. And to bring it back to, it's not a disease, it's not a syndrome, it's a naturally occurring protective mechanism of the body. So we can naturally tell your body everything's safe. You can ovulate now. So you must recover your missing period if you want to get pregnant. And the good news is this is easy. And like I said before, if you've had no period for 10 years, if you've had no period for 2 years, if you had no period for 2 weeks, 2 months, it's all possible. So what you're going to have to do is, the first thing, figure out why it's missing. I have tons of resources on this channel about why it's missing that you can find, but in a nutshell, you're under eating, you're over exercising, you're overstressed, you're overstimulated. There's a lot coming out, there's not a lot coming in and staying there. It could be your overall body weight. It could simply be recently you lost a lot of weight. It could be that you just generally don't eat enough regardless of whether or not your body weight changes or you're super lean. HA can be developed at any weight. So it's important for you to go through and understand why this happened to you. Once you've figured out why you have HA, you can create a plan to recover. Again, I have tons of resources on this channel about how to actually get your period back, so you have all of that at your disposal. But you need to go in with a plan. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for this long. If this doesn't work, I'm going to take the next step, right? Not I'm going to give up, not I'm going to go get fertility treatment, because you don't need to do that. Just you're going to take the next step of your investigation, right? Then at the same time, in that process, you're going to be replenishing nutrients. You're watching this video, sounds like you're interested in getting pregnant. If you haven't had a menstrual cycle for any significant amount of time, we know without a doubt, without needing to get lab testing, that you have a nutrient deficiency. By not ovulating, by not producing hormones, we know that your body is not able to store, metabolize, use a lot of the food, the energy, the nutrients that we're getting. So you have to go into a nutrient replenishment or a prenatal nutrition protocol. Then you're going to be looking for signs of progress. So signs of progress are everything from how you feel in your body, energy-wise, what you're seeing in terms of improvements with hair loss, strengthening of nails and strengthening of skin, all the way through to cervical mucus production and improvements in basal body temperature and things, which I'm going to get to. But you want to be tracking to see how you're feeling and is this working for you? Or are you still feeling not great after 2 months, 3 months? And that's about how long it takes to really see significant amount of change, but people do experience improvements in things like digestion and hair falling out and mood and energy pretty quickly often. So you want to be making sure you're keeping an eye on that and being curious about what is or isn't working. Then this last one, you are going to want to learn to track your cycle. So if you are listen to our show or watch this channel for a while, you know I'm all about tracking your cycle for HA recovery. This is something we do in our practice. This is something we teach people who do our certification to become recovery coaches to do. This is vital information. You cannot get your period back and expect to try and get pregnant without having a good idea of whether or not your menstrual cycle that you have recovered or are about to recover is falling in the optimal normal parameters. So if you don't know, your cycle comes in 4 phases: the bleed, the follicular phase, the ovulation, and the luteal phase. Over a whole month it goes into these different phases, and there are different parameters for each of those phases that are considered normal based on what we know about the menstrual cycle. And what we see in the science, in the studies, and in practice, because I see this replicated every day in practice, that if your cycle doesn't fall within those parameters, you can't get pregnant. If we can see when we track your cycle that you're not ovulating, you can't get pregnant. You might have a bleed, but you can't get pregnant. If you're going to, if you see that after you ovulate, that your luteal phase is too short, we know that if it's less than 10 days, you're not going to get pregnant. All of these things you need to understand. This is an issue we see a lot. We don't just work with women who are missing their period. We work with women who have recently recovered their period, but they're not getting pregnant yet because they're like, well, I have my period back and I'm still not getting pregnant. So why? What's the problem? And this is where we start looking at those parameters and saying, okay, I know what the problem is. Sure, you have a period, but you don't have a long enough luteal phase. You're not producing enough progesterone. You don't have a sufficient follicular phase. You're not producing enough estrogen. You're not ovulating at all. Overall, your hormones are low. Still, you can have enough hormonal activity to bleed, not enough to get pregnant. Absolutely possible. So we sometimes have to dig deeper into the protocol. It's not just a case of eat more and exercise less. It can be more specific than that. I'm not saying it's complicated, but it can be more specific than that. So those are going to be things you're going to do. You're going to figure out if it's missing or why it's missing, sorry. You're going to create a plan to get it back. You're going to ensure that you're replenishing those nutrient stores that are definitely depleted to prepare for pregnancy. You're going to ensure that what you're doing is working, and you're going to be open to taking the next step. And you're going to track the progress of your cycle, learn and understand if you're about to ovulate, if you're in your fertile window, if you're not, if your metabolism and your basal body temperature is too low or it's looking good. And you're going to use that information as well to ensure that your body is in an optimal state to actually get pregnant. So we do have a lot of resources for that. I recommend you head to our website and just go through. We have a quiz, we have a challenge, we have anything you need that you think resonates with your sticking point here. Do you need to understand why your period is missing, or and you need to understand how you can work through it and the challenges that come up and the fears that sometimes we have around eating, having to eat more, or having to take a bit of a break from how intensely we've been exercising. We have all kinds of resources for that. If you're interested in this tracking your cycle piece to understand how to know when your cycle is about to come back and if it's in the optimal range to get pregnant, we even have a course on that. It's like $37, super affordable, and we have a community, an entire community that you can join us and come to our community calls, our live coaching sessions, our practitioner events, and you can use all of those to help you get your cycle back, get pregnant. The last thing I'll share with you is that we work with women every day doing this in practice. So if you're trying to get pregnant, if you're missing your menstrual cycle, we can work with you specifically on your case to help you fast track through all of these steps, take you through our framework, our HA to ovulation framework that we take women through all the time to get their period back and get pregnant if that's your goal, which I think that it is, without all of the learning curves and having to DIY it and having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on treatments and pain. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe to this video on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast, and we cannot wait to chat with you guys next week. Have a good one.